Hare across many major cities across the US and Canada. So today we'll get a glimpse into the world of Jagannath, his stories, and the Rath Yatra Chariot Festival, which is going to be facilitated by Mahabhagavad Prabhu. So just a brief bio about Prabhu. Mahabhagavad Prabhu, some of you may know, many of you might know actually. He serves in our community, but he got introduced to practice of Krishna consciousness through a copy of Bhagavad Gita. So someone had gifted him the book many, many years ago, and since then he's been on an ongoing quest and learning the science from Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures. He serves in our community in many different ways, one of them being, facilitating spiritual discourses, connecting with a lot of newcomers, mentoring, counseling, and also cooking for the deities. So without further ado, we'll pass it over to him as we are already a little late. So please join me in giving a thunderous round of applause for Mahabhagavad Prabhu.
Thank you very much for choosing to spend your Sunday evenings here. It's summer and it's very valuable, Sunday evenings. The fact that you chose to spend your Sunday evenings here shows that you have some love for Krishna, that you will make this investment of time. So our hope is that you will use your time for your best benefit. I'm very grateful that some of my teachers are here, especially my teacher, Rupanuma Prabhu, is sitting there on the chair in the back. And of course, Srila Prabhupada, who is our teacher in general, for all of us. So thank you very much for joining us. We'll start with Jai Radha Madhava and then we'll jump into the class. Jaya Radha Madhava. लीला प्रविष्ट ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद् डिवाइन वेशिला अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी रंगी गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद् डिवाइन वेशिला भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम सुंदर राधा गिरि गोवर्धन श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय गंगामाई की जय यमुनामाई की जय भक्ति देवी की जय तुलसी देवी की जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय ट्रांसेंडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय ट्रांसेंडेंटल प्रसाद डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय सामवेद भक्तवृंद की जय ऑल गुरुज असेंबली डिवोटीज हरे ऑल गुरुज असेंबली डिवोटीज हरे ऑल गुरुज असेंबली डिवोटीज हरे ऑल गुरुज श्री श्री गुरु एंड श्री गौरांगा ऑल गुरुज श्री प्रभुपाद नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिने के नामने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशिकाय we are going to discuss Lord Jagannath today, but like Anjaney Tirtha Prabhu said, it's going to be just a tiny little tip of the iceberg because the information about Lord Jagannath is very vast, and I'm sure in the coming weeks we'll hear a lot more about Lord Jagannath. We'll also connect the Lord Jagannath, by the way, for those of you who may not know, is the deity on my right hand side, your left hand side, here at this corner of the temple room. There were three deities, actually four. So there was one deity who was black complexion, dark complexion, and he is Krishna. There was another deity who is actually fair complexion, very white, milk white actually. He is Lord Balaram, Krishna's brother. And between them, there was a female personality. Her name is Subhadra Devi. She is Krishna and Balaram's sister. And on the extreme right side of us, when we are facing the altar, there is actually a pillar, and that is Lord Shri Krishna's Sudarshan Chakra. So that's the fourth deity that is on the altar there. And we have two sets of deities. One set of deities never leave the temple, except last year and the year before during the pandemic when they actually left the temple. It's amazing how they arranged that pastime. And the gigantic deities that you see behind, like Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, they annually go on the Lord Jagannath Rath Yatra, which they will be going again this year. Okay? So we will start as always by relying on the basis of everything for the word, for what we say today, from the words of Sri Krishna, because that is the supreme absolute truth, Lord Sri Krishna. We are going to read from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 8. Okay? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. सर्वं प्रवर्तते इति मत्वा भजन्ते मां बुधा भावसमन्विता. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this, engage in my devotional service, and worship me with all their hearts. This translation and the purport that follows is by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So let's pay attention to this. This is the maximum value you're going to get in the class. The words of Srila Prabhupada. Okay? A learned scholar who has studied the Vedas perfectly and has information from authorities like Lord Chaitanya and who knows how to apply these teachings can understand that Krishna is the origin of everything in both the material and spiritual worlds. And because he knows this perfectly, he becomes firmly fixed in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. He can never be deviated by any amount of nonsensical commentaries or by fools. All Vedic literature agrees that Krishna is the source of Brahma, Shiva, and all the other demigods. In the Atharva Veda, Gopal Tapani Upanishad 124, it is said, Yo Brahmanam Vidadhati Purvam Yo Vai Vedam Chagapayati Sma Krishna. It was Krishna who in the beginning instructed Brahma in Vedic knowledge and who disseminated Vedic knowledge in the past. Then again, Narayana Upanishad, first verse says, Atha Purusho Havai Narayano Akamayata Prajasrijeti. Then the Supreme Personality Narayana desired to create living entities. The Upanishad continues, Narayana Brahmajayate, Narayana Prajapati Prajayate, Narayana Indro Jayate, Narayana Ashtau Vasavo Jayante, Narayana Ekadasha Rudra Jayante, Narayana Dvadashaditya. From Narayana, Brahma is born, and from Narayana the patriarchs are also born. From Narayana, Indra is born, from Narayana the 8 Vasus are born, from Narayana the 11 Rudras are born, and from Narayana the 12 Adityas are born. This Narayana is an expansion of Krishna. It is said in the same Vedas, Brahmanyo Devaki Putraha, the son of Devaki, Krishna, is the Supreme Personality. This is from the Narayana Upanishad, verse 4. Then it is said, Eko vai Narayana Asina Brahma Neshano Napo Nagni Somo Nepe Dyava Prithvi Na Nakshatrani Na Suryaha. In the beginning of creation, there was only the Supreme Personality Narayana. There was no Brahma, no Shiva, no water, no fire, no moon, no heaven and earth, no stars in the sky, no sun. Maha Upanishad 1.2. In the Maha Upanishad, it is also said that Lord Shiva was born from the forehead of the Supreme Lord. Thus the Vedas say that it is the Supreme Lord, the creator of Brahma and Shiva, who is to be worshipped. In the Moksha Dharma section of the Mahabharata, Krishna also says, Prajapatim cha rudram cha pyaham eva sajami vai tauhimam na vijanito mama maya vimohito. The patriarchs, Shiva and the others are created by me, although they do not know that they are created by me because they are deluded by my illusory energy. In the Varaha Purana, it is also said, Narayana paro devas tasmai jatas chaturmukha tasmad rudro abhavat deva sava sacha sarvajñatam gataha. Narayana is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and from him Brahma was born, from whom Shiva was born. Lord Krishna is the source of all generations, and he is called the most efficient cause of everything. He says, because everything is born of me, I am the original source of all. Everything is under me, no one is above me. There is no supreme controller other than Krishna. One who understands Krishna in such a way, from a bona fide spiritual master, with references from Vedic literature, engages all his energy in Krishna consciousness and becomes a truly learned man. In comparison to him, all others who do not know Krishna properly are but fools. Only a fool would consider Krishna to be an ordinary man. A Krishna conscious person should not be bewildered by fools. He should avoid all unauthorized commentaries and interpretations on Bhagavad Gita and proceed in Krishna consciousness with determination and firmness. Om Tat Sat. Om Adhyanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sarjatam Savaranagunatamikam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Savaranagarita Shri Vishakantamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyo Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Thank you very much. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisance at the lotus feet of my spiritual master. So, in this class, we are going to talk about 4 things, okay? Just 4 things, only 4 things. Okay, the first is, who is Lord Jagannath? Actually, you already heard who is Lord Jagannath, but we'll talk about that. Who is Lord Jagannath? Why does he look the way he does? You saw Krishna on the center altar, Radha Keshava Gopinath, standing there in his 3-bending form, with his flute, the peacock feather, with Radharani by his side. But Jagannath looks a little different. People have misunderstood him. Many mundane scholars who have tried to understand Lord Jagannath have misunderstood him to be some sort of an abstraction or some sort of a tribal understanding of what God is and so on. But that's not true. And we are going to talk about why he looks the way he does. And then we're going to discuss very briefly what is so amazing about him. Actually briefly, because everything about Lord Jagannath is just completely amazing. It's just incredible. We're just going to talk about a little bit about Lord Jagannath. And then the most important thing everybody should be asking, right? What's in it for me with him? Right? What's in it for me? Why should I know who is Jagannath? Why should I know how amazing he is, and why should I know, what does it matter to me what he looks like? Why should I care? Right? And then ultimately, what benefit am I going to get? Srila Prabhupada said that the intelligent person should always ask, before doing something, they should ask, what is the benefit that I am getting from doing this particular activity? And then do that which will give you the maximum benefit. Right? That's the best thing, right? You invest the minimum amount of money and you get the maximum amount of money back, correct? So you invest the minimum amount of effort and you get the maximum amount of benefit back. That's the goal of life. But while we are doing all of this, we are also going to discuss 3 main concepts of our Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta. Okay? In very brief again, right? Because we don't have too much time. Okay? We are going to talk about 3 concepts. How many? 3. Okay, the first one is called Sambandha. Everybody say Sambandha. Sambandha. Say again Sambandha. Sambandha. The second one is Abhidheya. Say Abhidheya. Abhidheya. And the third one is Prayojana. Say Prayojana. Prayojana. So how many concepts? 3. Which was the first one? Sambandha. Which was the second one? Abhidheya. Which was the third one? Prayojana. Thank you very much. So the first one, Sambandha, for those of you who speak any Indian language, is called, it means relationship, our relationship with Krishna. You know, you cannot do anything unless you know what is my relationship with that thing. You can fulfill the objectives of your job when you understand that you are employed for a particular company. You can fulfill the objectives of a business when you understand that I own this business or I work for this business, right? Similarly, you cannot do anything in relation with Krishna without the understanding our relationship with Krishna. So what is relationship called? And the second one is, once you understand the relationship, okay, like for example, let's take a boy and a girl, they get married. Like first the sambandha is established. Okay, you are married to this girl, you are married to this boy, right? Now your sambandha is established. Now once the sambandha is established, now there has to be some action, isn't it? The girl should serve the boy should serve the girl, and in this way the relationship can be established, isn't it? So the next one is Abhidheya, which means action. What does action mean? Abhidheya. And the third one is Prayojana. Prayojana means the objective, the ultimate goal of why we are doing everything, why we are establishing the relationship, why we are engaging in these particular actions. That is called what? Prayojana, or the ultimate goal. Okay, so we are going to talk about how many goals? How many things? 3 things. Sambandha, Abhidheya and Prayojana. Of course, these topics are so vast that there are hundreds and hundreds of books written about this by our great acharyas. So, in the space of a few minutes, there is no way that I can actually go into the technical details. And my status also is as a beginner, so I cannot also go into too much detail about this stuff. So, in Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta, there are 3 deities which you should know. There are 3 deities. So the first deity is called Sri Madan Mohan, or he is the Sambandhadi Deva, or he is the deity in charge of establishing our relationship with Krishna. So anybody who worships Sri Radha Madan Mohan is able to establish their relationship with Sri Krishna. And then there is Abhideya, which is the action. So there is a second set of deities, Sri Radha Govinda Devji in Jaipur. And these deities, this deity establishes, helps us understand the devotional service, helps us understand the action in Krishna consciousness. And the third deity is Sri Radha Gopinath. He's right here. Okay? Sri Radha Kichor Gopinath is an expansion of Sri Radha Gopinath. And he helps us to understand the prayojan, the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal of life is given by Sri Radha Kichor Gopinath, right here. Okay? Now our three respective acharyas, the first deity was established by Sri Sanatana Goswami. So there is a song, Sanatan Pranadhana, is Sri Radha Madan Mohan. Then our second deity, Sri Radha Govinda Devji, is established by Sri Rupa Goswami, who has written vast literature on devotional service, and we are actually known as Rupanugas. So all of us, we are followers of Sri Rupa Goswami. And Sri Raghunath Das Goswami has established the third deity, Sri Radha Gopinath, who is by whose blessing we get the ultimate goal of life. Okay, but we won't go into too much detail because we are going to focus on how all three goals are actually also given by Lord Jagannath. Okay, so Lord Jagannath, in his form, is giving us all three. He is giving us Sambandha, he is giving us Abhideya, and he is giving us Prayojana. Okay, so in doing so, it always helps to understand a little bit about Sri Krishna's pastime. So the first pastime, and I am going back to who was here for last week's class? Last Sunday? There are a few devotees who were here for last week's class. Okay, so if you missed that class, please watch it on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, which Karuna Sindhu Prabhu carefully takes care of. That class is recorded and you can watch it again. I highly recommend it. Where Rupanuga Prabhu talked about Krishna, the ultimate planner, and he actually talked about the time scale of Krishna's planning and the intricacy of his planning. Okay, if you can hear that class, it will be very, very beneficial. It was very beneficial for me anyways. So I am also going to follow in the same vein, following in the same mood that he established. So we're going to talk about three pastimes. How many pastimes? Three. Okay. We're going to talk about three pastimes. The first pastime is that which occurred 5,000 years ago. How many years ago? 5,000. Approximately 5,000 years ago. The second pastime, actually it is not known how many million years ago it appeared, but it happened at least 2.1 million years ago in Satya Yuga. How many million years ago? 2.1 million years ago. And the third pastime is something that happened just about 50 years ago. How many years ago? 50 years. So 5,000, 2.1 million and 50 years. Okay, approximately. The first pastime we are going to talk about. Remember I said we are going to say who is Jagannath, why does he look the way he looks, what is so amazing about him, and what am I going to get by knowing all of this, right? So 5,000 years ago, Mother Rohini, who is Mother Rohini? She is the mother of Lord Balaram. She is the mother of Lord Balaram. She came, she was in Dwarka, and the queens of Dwarka knew that Mother Rohini has experienced Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan Dham, which are very, very sweet. And then sometimes, you know that Krishna married 16,108 wives, and then he expanded himself into 16,108 forms. It's not like one wife had to wait 16,108 nights to see her husband, right? So every wife got to see her husband every night, all the children got to see their father every night. Right? So 16,108 expansions of Krishna. Right? Only God can do that. Right? Nobody else can. So at night, when Krishna was asleep, he would sometimes utter the names of his associates from Vrindavan. He would take the names of the gopis. He would take the names of Srimati Radharani. He would take the names of sometimes his coward boyfriends. And all these queens who had heard all these names but did not know who these personalities were or what and why Krishna is so attracted that, you know, he's with them but he's dreaming of his associates in Vrindavan. So they actually took Mother Rohini into a room. It was a secret chamber. Only the 16,108 queens and Mother Rohini were allowed guards were posted outside. Specifically, the guard who was posted was Mother Subhadra. Who was the guard that was posted? Who is the center personality on this altar here? The golden complexion personality, female personality that you see between Jagannath and Baldev is Subhadra. She was posted as the guard. So Krishna and Balram were somewhere else, and Mother Rohini began to recount the pastimes of Sri Krishna in Vrindavan with the gopis. Now these pastimes are so nectarian and so sweet and so amazing and so much filled with nectar, but those pastimes are easily misunderstood by somebody who is not in the pure consciousness. And so therefore, anybody else who is not a queen of Dwarka or some such exalted personality actually is not allowed to hear these pastimes. Not even Krishna himself was supposed to hear these pastimes. So Subhadra Devi was posted as a guard. Now you know the guard closes the door and stands outside, right? But Subhadra Devi could not resist herself. She turned her ear to a tiny hole in the door and she began to hear these nectarian pastimes of Shri Krishna. Obviously she is completely qualified, she is Yogamaya herself. So she started to hear these pastimes, and hearing these pastimes sent ripples of ecstasy through her form, through her body. Now you have to, it's impossible to compare this. We have not had any such experience in the material world, but you can imagine that when there is something that is pleasurable that happens, you kind of sense a tingle down your spine, right? Sometimes it happens, sends a tingle down your spine. Now imagine that, you can only imagine. Imagine that multiplied a million, billion, trillion times. That's what Subhadra Devi was experiencing. And so, as she was experiencing this ecstatic pastime, her eyes opened wide. Her arms shrunk. Just like a baby, you know? Like a little, it's a mundane example, but have you seen when you pick a cat by the nape of its neck? It shrinks like that. Even if it's a full-grown cat, behaves like a little kitten, right? So Subhadra Devi, you cannot, it's a mundane example, and I can only, mundane examples only go so far, but she experienced that kind of ecstasy and she was completely frozen. Now, you know that Krishna and Balram were far away and they could see that Subhadra is nowhere to be seen. And Mother Rohini and all the queens are nowhere to be seen. So something must be going on. Krishna knows that something must be going on. So he says to Balram, Balram, you please go and check what these women are up to. Please go and find out. Okay? So Lord Balram comes to the door of this assembly hall where Mother Rohini is recounting to who? The queens of Dwarka, Krishna's queens. She is recounting the pastimes. And when Lord Balram came, he saw that Subhadra Devi is experiencing some kind of ecstasy. Okay, so what she is hearing must be completely ecstatic. So he came and he put his ear to the door and he started to hear the pastimes of Shri Krishna in Vrindavan. And he was completely transformed. And a similar bodily transformation that happened to Mother Subhadra also happened to Lord Balram. So his eyes became wide, his arms wide, and he was stunned in ecstasy. And he remained there. For a long time, Balram also did not come back. Now Subhadra is gone, nowhere to be seen. Balram is gone, nowhere to be seen. Now Krishna decided to check for himself what is going on. You know, now this is the hallmark, right, of Krishna's sweetness of Krishna's pastime, that Krishna himself is eager to hear them. You know, so when we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, let's chant once together. 1, 2, 3. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When we chant this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, you know, we might hear or we might not hear, but Krishna hears his pastimes within this Mahamantra. So in order to give pleasure to Krishna, we chant. What do we chant? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. And the more our chanting is higher in quality, the more pleasure Krishna gets from our chanting. And therefore, we get a tiny drop of Krishna's pleasure in the form of taste for chanting Hare Krishna. So anyways, Mother Rohini is recounting the pastimes back to the past, and all the queens of Dwarka are enthralled, and so are Subhadra and Balaram. And now Krishna is also coming to the door, and he sees Balaram is in a strange condition of ecstasy. Subhadra is in a strange condition of ecstasy. Something amazing must be going on in that room. So he puts his ear to the door and he hears, and immediately Lord Shri Krishna, the master of the universe, Lord Jagannath, he becomes completely transformed by ecstasy, and that ecstatic form is the form that we see on this altar. Lord Jagannath, Lord Baldev, Lord Subhadra, Subhadra Devi, they are all in an extremely ecstatic form. Now, what is amazing about somebody who is very, very happy? You tell me, when somebody is in a very happy mood, you can get whatever you want from them. Isn't that true? Right? When the father comes home, the children want something, the mother says, wait, he's not in a good mood yet. Right? Let me feed him. Let him relax a little bit. Let him forget all the nonsense that happened at the office. Now you can go to him. Right? Doesn't it happen like that? If you want to approach your mother for something, you don't approach when she's upset with something, isn't it? You wait for the right moment. You wait. And then when she's in a good mood, then you approach her, right? Similarly, it happens between husband and wife, between brother and sister. You kind of watch out. Even if you're going to ask your boss for a raise, right? You don't ask your boss for a raise the day the company has made losses, isn't it? When the company has made big profits, that's when you go and ask your boss for a raise, right? I've helped you make this profit. I deserve a raise. Right? Isn't that true? So, Krishna, Jagannath, Baldev and Subhadra are in the highest ecstatic mood, right? So they actually are giving out the highest benediction, which is the ability for us to come back here, us who are little material souls caught up in the material world, stuck here in the cycle of birth, death, old age and disease, just by the mercy of just by the glance of Lord Jagannath, we can receive the highest benediction. So he's in that mood, and just imagine how merciful he is, that somebody might be in an ecstatic mood for a second, maybe a minute, maybe even an hour, right? Let's say a father whose daughter is getting married is in ecstatic mood, maybe for a few days, right? Until it hits that the daughter is actually going somewhere, right? They're in an ecstatic mood, right? It lasts for a short amount of time. But in the case of Lord Jagannath, he is in that ecstasy eternally to benefit us. Right? He is in that ecstatic mood eternally to benefit us. Whether you are qualified, whether you are unqualified, whether you are deserving, whether you are undeserving, it does not matter. Right? He is completely ecstatic. And therefore he does not reason. There is no logic with Lord Jagannath. And therefore Lord Jagannath is very, very special. Okay, so this is a pastime that happened how many years ago? 5,000 years ago. Now we'll look at how this form of Lord Jagannath actually manifested at least 2.1 million years ago, right? Krishna is the supreme planner, right? You can't say that there's any chronological order to Krishna's pastime, because Krishna's form is eternal, correct? So once upon a time in the Satya Yuga, this is the Kali Yuga, there are 4 yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapar and Kali. We are in the 4th and the worst of the yugas. Satya is the first one of the cycle, and it's amazing. People have long lifespans, everything is very pure, and the benefits are massive. But in that Satya Yuga, there was a king named Indradumna. What was his name? Indradumna. Okay? There are many Indradumnas mentioned across the scriptures, but there was a particular king named Indradumna. And one night, he was a pure devotee of Krishna, and he dreamt of a beautiful form of Krishna as Neela Madhava. How many years ago did Krishna appear on this planet? Most recently? But Indradumna dreamt about Krishna how many years ago? 2.1 million years ago. Right? It's not imaginary. It's eternally existent in the spiritual world. So, Sri Krishna appeared in a dream in the form of a particular deity named Neela Madhava. Neela Madhava is the most exquisite deity of Sri Krishna that is presently not on the earthly planet. That deity was so exquisite. So he sent out his ministers, and it's a very long, beautiful pastime, but I will condense it in a couple of minutes, okay? Sorry, please forgive me. So he sent out his ministers. They went looking everywhere, high and low. Nobody could find. All the emissaries returned and said, "Sorry, my dear king, we could not find your Nilamadava," except for one who did not return. His name was, what is his name? Vidyapati. He did not come back. And there are also many Vidyapatis, so it's easy to get confused, but there was one particular minister who did not come back. He found out that after being nearly dead from thirst and hunger, some young girl rescued him. She gave him water. She took him to their village, and she introduced him to her father. And there were a particular class of people known as Shabaras, who are ordinarily in the materialistic sense regarded as a low caste, but they gave him shelter, they gave him hospitality, and he accepted their hospitality. And he noticed that the king of the Shabaras, what's his name? Vishwavasu, used to go every night somewhere, he used to come back not smelling like a Shabar. In other words, he was smelling very, very, very celestial. He was smelling like he had been to the heavenly planets or something like that. So he guessed, Vidyapati was a clever man, so he guessed that this person must have something special. So he followed this person and discovered that he was actually worshipping the deity of Nilamadava. So he found the deity. So now he decided that he was going to bring his king to see the deity now, right? Morning Ishopanishad. Every time a phone rings. Okay. So he was already married to this princess, to the king of the daughter of the king of the Shabaras. It's a very long story, but somehow or the other, by the time Vidyapati brought the king back to the spot, Nilamadava had disappeared, and the king was thrown into great despair. And then the king appeared again in the form of Nilamadava and said, "Oh, you know what? Now I will not be visible in this material universe in this form again, but I will appear in my form as Daru Brahma," or the form of Jagannath is Daru Brahma. Daru means wood, and Brahma means the supreme absolute truth. So how will this happen? He said, well, there will be a log of wood that will float in the ocean. You bring this log of wood, you have this log of wood carved by a particular architect who will come to you, a particular carpenter who will come to you, and my form will be manifest to you. So fine, they found the log. Both Vishwavasu and the king Indra took the log of wood out of the water. Of course, there was a whole pastime where they could not move the log, it was too heavy. But when these two pure devotees touched the log moved. And then many carpenters came, and the moment they touched their chisel to the wood, their chisel would break into pieces, and they lost all their tools essentially. Until one particular carpenter said, he would carve the deities, and finally the deity was carved by this carpenter. But the condition was that when the carving was going on, nobody was supposed to come in and watch the carpenter working, watch the artisan working. But this king Indra, he did not hear the tick-tick sound of the chiseling going on. The door was closed. He said, "This man is an old man. I don't know if something has happened to him. I cannot let something happen to him. Maybe I should go and open the door." The moment they opened the door, the carpenter, who was actually Vishwakarma in disguise, had disappeared, and they were what appeared to be half-finished deities. So those half-finished, they thought that they were half-finished deities. But then Nilamadava said, "No, this is the form that I am appearing now in this age in front of you, and this is the same form that we see in front of us today, Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra." And then Vishwakarma Indra decided that he's going to invite Lord Brahma to perform the installation. So he was such a powerful king that he could actually go to Brahma Loka But by the time he went to Brahmaloka and came back, time is relative. Different planets have different time scales. So all the people of his kingdom who were waiting for the installation had already died. Their children had died. Their grandchildren, great-grandchildren, hundreds and thousands of years had already passed. And so Indraduna was not recognized, and there was another big confusion. Ultimately, Lord Brahma did install the deities in the temple, known in a place called Nilachal, which is today Jagannath Puri. Right? And so Lord Jagannath had appeared in this world many millions of years ago. Then the temple was lost and then recovered, and a lot of great history behind it. So this pastime happened how many years ago? 2.1 million years ago. And then what had happened somehow or the other is that even though Lord Jagannath is who? Lord of the universe. Like Jaga means universe, the whole universe, right? Jagannath is not Hindu Nath. Jagannath is not India Nath. Jagannath is not Puri Nath. Jagannath is who? Lord of the universe. Jagannath. Pitahamasya jagato mata dhata pitaham vidyam pavitro omkara samedurevacha. Right? Lord Jagannath is the master of the whole universe. Right? What to speak of? But unfortunately, or whatever it is actually Lord Jagannath's arrangement. People who are not born in a Hindu background are not allowed to enter into the temple. So our spiritual masters, the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, for example, who some of them who are of Western, they look like they're white-bodied or black-bodied or Chinese or whatever they might look. But these great pure devotees are actually not allowed to enter the temple of Lord Jagannath, which is pretty sad, isn't it? They're pure devotees. They are the ones who gave us access to Krishna, and they are not allowed to enter into the temple of Lord Jagannath. So, Lord Jagannath, being so merciful, wanted to expand his pastimes. And 50 years ago, when Srila Prabhupada went to San Francisco in 1967, this is a pastime that happened how many years ago now? 50 years ago. Mother Malati, who is one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, one of his foremost disciples, very sincere soul, she happened to see some little dolls in a little import shop that had just arrived from India, little dolls. And she, back then, the devotees were not very rich. Okay, today we have a temple on Avenue Road thanks to their efforts, all the efforts of Srila Prabhupada and his disciples. But back then, they didn't have a lot of money, and they were still also a little bit in Krishna's mood. So she just flicked one of those dolls, just picked it up, and she thought this will make a nice gift for my spiritual master. She was thinking, how can I please my spiritual master? This looks very nice, this looks very cute. I'll take it for my guru. And then she brought this little thing about this big, about this high, right? In front of, and she put it on this form on Srila Prabhupada's table on his desk, and immediately he stopped everything that he was doing, and he started offering obeisances and chanting prayers, and she could see that he was visibly moved by seeing this form. And so she said, "Who is this?" And Srila Prabhupada said, "This is Jagannath." "Very good, you have brought Lord Jagannath." And then he said, "There were two others. Can you bring them also? But this time, please pay for the whatever you're getting from the store." Right? So he brought, so this is how in 1967 Lord Jagannath appeared in San Francisco. What is the new name of San Francisco? It's called New Jagannath Puri. What is the new name of San Francisco? So San Francisco might be the name that is being called, and it's also the name of a great saint. So there's nothing Saint Francis. Let's say Saint Francis, San Francisco. But Lord Jagannath has adopted San Francisco and called it what? New Jagannath Puri. And those deities, then Srila Prabhupada had one of his disciples, the husband of Mother Malati, Shyam Sundar Prabhu, carve a bigger replica of those little deities that he got from Mother Malati from that store, and that was the start of the first Rath Yatra ceremony. Because Lord Jagannath, what does he want to do? He wants to bestow his blessings to everybody, whether somebody is qualified, whether somebody is not qualified. He doesn't care about those things. And so he expanded to the agency of Srila Prabhupada. So why did he appear? He appeared why? To benefit us, all of us here. Okay, and then from San Francisco he traveled all over the world. He has gone to Japan, he has gone to Africa, he has gone to Australia. He's on every inhabited continent of the planet. Lord Jagannath is present today. Okay, so he has come to Toronto and he goes out on Rath Yatra. Drunk people see him, drug people see him, and people who don't know what it means to be clean see him. He just goes through the regular streets because he's in complete ecstasy. He wants to give that mercy to everybody. Okay, so now we talked about, how many concepts did I say we are going to cover? Three concepts. What are the three concepts? What's the English translation of those? And the goal. Okay. So in the Jagannath Rath Yatra, there is another very important pastime, right, which happened, which is that that Krishna appeared in the jail of Kamsa to Devaki and Vasudev, and then he went to Vrindavan. He stayed in Vrindavan for some length of time, and then he left Vrindavan, isn't it? He came back, he killed Kamsa, and then he established a capital city of Dwarka. He created this land out of the ocean, right? And he established all his palaces, and he ruled the Yadava kingdom from there. And then after the war of Kurukshetra, he did many different pastimes. The devotees in Vrindavan were very sad, they were serving Krishna in separation. Actually, they were appeared to be very sad, but actually they were in the highest ecstasy, and that ecstasy is called Vipralambha Bhava. We won't get into all those details for now, especially since we are way out of time. Sorry. He's been giving me all these glares all this time, but I've been ignoring him very shamelessly. So, in the Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra, the main thing is there was a particular time when the residents of Vrindavan met Krishna. And in a place called Kurukshetra, where there are lots of auspicious bathing places, and there was a solar eclipse, so everybody had decided to gather there. And that's another long story on its own, how they gathered, how they met, how they decided to go back home, go back their separate ways. But they decided that they were talking, and they said, let's go tomorrow, and let's go tomorrow, and let's go tomorrow. And they just stayed in Kurukshetra, and stayed in Kurukshetra, and stayed in Kurukshetra, because they could not separate themselves from each other. Finally, the gopis decided, the residents of Vrindavan decided that enough is enough. We are not actually going back to Vrindavan without Krishna and Balaram and Subhadra. We are actually going to take them. So they took off his kingly outfit, because Krishna is a cowherd boy in Vrindavan, not a king. Brought him back to his simple, beautiful form, not obscured by the opulence of royalty, and unyoked his chariots, let the horses go basically, and they decided to pull their chariots themselves all the way back to Vrindavan. From Kurukshetra to Vrindavan is a long distance. Even by car it takes many, many hours. But these residents of Vrindavan, frail gopis, actually pull chariot all the way back to Vrindavan. So the Lord Jagannath Rath Yatra, and there is a lot of very deep understanding there, but we cannot get into all of that. But what I am saying to you here is that the Lord Jagannath Rath Yatra is an opportunity to take Krishna back to Vrindavan. So what is the prayojan of the Rath Yatra? Take Krishna back to Vrindavan. So give him the highest pleasure by taking back to Vrindavan. So we can serve in many different ways, right? We can serve. There's a lot of effort required. Anjaney Tirtha Prabhu is part of the team that is helping to organize Rath Yatra. Is there anybody else here? Maybe outside. So it takes a lot of effort to organize the Rath Yatra, a lot of physical effort, a lot of planning, a lot of donations too, because we are serving 50,000 people prasadam on the island. It takes a lot in order to organize the Rath Yatra. So what's in it for you? Okay, this is the final thing that I will say, and I will stop here. And there may not be any time for questions, but I am here for some more time, so we can discuss if you have questions. The Rath Yatra can actually, if you participate in the Rath Yatra wholeheartedly, completely, to the best of your ability and to the best of your capacity, you give everything that you have got at that point in time to Krishna, then that actually helps us all to get deeper understanding of our relationship with Krishna. Our relationship with Krishna is that we are His eternal parts and parcels. We are meant to serve Krishna. It gives us a better understanding of that. It also helps us to act in the Rath Yatra directly to take Krishna back to Vrindavan, and it actually brings us closer to the final goal, which is to give pleasure to Krishna. That's what we exist for. All of us exist to give pleasure to Sri Krishna. And by participating in the Rath Yatra wholeheartedly, we can actually accomplish all three goals without going necessarily to Karoli or Jaipur. Just by being in Toronto, we get all that benefit. So this is happening on the 16th and 17th of July. So I am begging you, requesting each and every one of you to please do your best, to the best of your capacity, with your words, tell people about it, tell people about the Rath Yatra, with your body, work hard for the Rath Yatra, and with your whatever resources you might have, whatever donations you can make to help the Rath Yatra festival a grand success. So this is my humble request to you. And Srila Prabhupada brought this Rath Yatra in 1967 to the West, and since then the Rath Yatra has benefited many millions of people outside of the shores of Sri Jagannath Puri. So this is my humble request. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki. So we are going to say Jai Jagannath 3 times, okay? And then we are going to say the Hare Krishna Mahamantra once. So 1, 2, 3. Jai. Once more. Once more. You take the cake. I love it. Thank you. So let's chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra once, and then we'll end the class. Okay? Thank you very much. Together. 1, 2, 3. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Yes, please, let's do a big round of applause. We pushed him a little less on time. Sorry about that, Prabhu. But I hope you all got a quick summary of what to expect in this upcoming festival. So before you all leave, just want to let you know that we'll continue to have the Sunday Feast program every Sunday 5 p.m. And in the coming weeks, you can expect more talks and sessions around the pastime of Jagannath and the upcoming festival. So just one last announcement. We do have a Sunday Feast concert today. Archit Gupta Prabhu and his family is anyone here? Archit Gupta? Archit Gupta Prabhu and family? If you are here, please do come forward. We have a small gift we want to share with you. If not, hopefully, we'll see you next week and we'll be able to give you the gift. Or else, please feel free to come by the front desk if you are. That is Archit Gupta Prabhu and his family. So it looks like they're not here. But anyways, thank you all for joining us. You can collect your prasadam fees outside. And today's prasadam was cooked by Dwarkana Prabhu and Uttamananda Prabhu. So maybe we can give our appreciation to wonderful foods for bringing some sumptuous prasadam. So thank you all. We hope to see you again next Sunday. We didn't have Q&A, so if somebody wants to have a quick chat with Prabhu, please, you're most welcome to come. Right, Prabhu? You'll be here for some more time. So feel free to chat with Prabhu, and we'll see you all again next Sunday at 6 p.m. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Q.
Where's your shirt? Where's your What do you want?
Go shake.
Shake Haribol.
Haribol.
Okay. Shake Haribol. Hare Krishna. Haribol.
Jai Jagannath.
Jai Jagannath.
I'll wait. I have
It's okay, one okay. And you put it in the garbage. And you come and put my record. Come. Okay, stop. Here, this one. Oh, yeah.